Riding the tide of fate. Kailani balanced effortlessly on her Alaya wood surfboard, the embodiment of a Hawaiian goddess gliding across the azure expanse of the Pacific. Her bronze skin gleamed under the sun, flecked with the cool spray of salt water, while her thick black braid whipped behind her like a banner of strength and defiance. The powerful wave surged beneath her, and with a graceful lean, Kailani let her fingers trail along the crystal blue wall of water beside her. Today marked a full year since her father's passing, and her auntie's words from that morning echoed in her mind, "Your new future will land soon." She smiled, a rare expression that had been buried for the past year. The ocean was her sanctuary, her connection to her father, and now, to the legacy of North Shore Boards, the small, struggling surfboard shop he had left behind. Today she felt alive again, and deep down, she knew that tomorrow would change everything. "Damn, look at her fly," a voice shouted from behind as she zipped past a group of surfers, riding the massive wave with ease and precision. Kailani's heart swelled with pride. This was her moment. She would show the world the strength of her father's handcrafted wooden boards, and with the international big wave competition happening just off Oahu's shores, this was her chance to revive North Shore Boards. The competition was fierce, but she was determined to prove that her family's traditional wooden surfboards were as powerful and timeless as the waves themselves. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a blur of electric blue dropped in from above. Another surfer cut in on her wave without warning. Kailani ducked to avoid a collision, but the move threw her off balance, sending her tumbling into the roaring white water. The force of the wave spun her like a rag doll, her body twisting and crashing through the swirling chaos. She felt a sharp crack of pain in her ankle as her own board clipped her, and a frustrated scream escaped her lips. "Damn haole," she yelled, her voice drowned out by the roaring surf. Mainlanders. The big wave competition had brought an influx of international surfers, eager to challenge the island's legendary swells. Kailani had earned her spot in the lineup after years of dedication, training on her family's hand-carved boards. This was her shot at redemption, and it was slipping through her fingers because of some reckless surfer. Limping ashore, her ankle throbbing with pain, Kailani spotted the culprit. A man and a woman were standing near a long blue surfboard, casually chatting as if they hadn't nearly killed her. "You almost ran me over," she shouted, her fists clenched at her sides as she hobbled toward them, rage flaring in her chest. The man turned, looking bewildered. "What? You dropped in on my wave," Kailani accused, glaring at him. "Do that again, and I'll..." Her eyes suddenly shifted to the woman beside him, and her voice faltered. The woman was breathtaking. Tall and muscular, with sun-kissed skin, and a confident posture, she stood like a statue of Aphrodite on the sand. Her eyes, a brilliant blue, glinted with amusement as they met Kailani's. "What?" the woman, Jen, finally spoke, raising an eyebrow. "Were you riding that wooden board?" "Yeah, I was," Kailani snapped. "And I had the right of way." Jen glanced at her board, then back at Kailani, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "That thing? Sorry, but my board doesn't turn well. It's a piece of junk." Kailani's anger mixed with something else, something unexpected. Jen's smile, her chiseled body, the way her board shorts hung low on her hips, it all left Kailani feeling strangely disarmed. She tried to hold onto her anger, but it was slipping through her fingers. "You think this is a joke?" Kailani sputtered. "This is my life. My culture." Jen's eyes softened, and Kailani felt the heat of embarrassment rise in her chest. She was getting emotional in front of this stunning stranger, but she couldn't help it. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let this haole ruin everything. "I didn't mean to mess you up," Jen said, stepping closer, her voice sincere. "That wave was incredible. You have serious skills." The compliment caught Kailani off guard. Before she could respond, Jen's friend nudged her. "Come on, let's get a drink." Jen hesitated, her gaze lingering on Kailani for a moment longer before turning to follow her friend. Kailani watched them walk away, her heart still pounding, not just from the adrenaline of the fall but from the confusing mix of frustration and attraction swirling in her chest. She limped back to her shop, North Shore boards, her ankle throbbing with each step, the weight of her father's legacy pressing down on her. Later that day, as she worked in the back room of the shop, her mind wandered back to Jen. Kailani ran her hands over the smooth, freshly sanded surface of an Alaya board, her father's traditional surfboards made from the heartwood of local paulownia trees. The scent of sawdust filled the air, grounding her in the moment. Her father's shop was barely surviving. Tourists wanted modern epoxy boards, not handcrafted wooden ones. The bills were piling up, and Kailani felt the pressure of it all resting squarely on her shoulders. If only her father were still here. He had a way of making magic with his hands, bringing out the soul of the wood. Kailani wasn't sure she could live up to his legacy. Suddenly, a voice called out from the front of the shop. "Hello. I'm here about a big wave board." Kailani's heart skipped a beat. She wiped her hands on her shorts and stepped into the main room, only to be met with those same piercing blue eyes. "Jen. You." Kailani froze, her voice faltering. "What are you doing here?" Jen smiled, leaning casually against the counter. "I need a board for tomorrow's competition. I heard you make the best ones. You almost killed me today, and now you want me to make you a board." Kailani folded her arms, incredulous. Jen shrugged. "Look, I need something bigger and stronger than the piece of crap I'm riding now. Your boards are different, they're special. I can feel it." Kailani's defenses began to crumble. She wasn't sure if it was the compliment, or the way Jen was looking at her with that intense, unwavering gaze, but something inside her softened. She sighed, motioning for Jen to come closer. "This is an Alaya board," Kailani explained, guiding Jen's hands over the smooth surface of the board. "It's heavier than the modern ones, but it carves deeper into the wave. It has a soul, you just have to learn how to ride it." Jen's hands lingered on the board, her eyes locked on Kailani's. "I want to learn." Their hands touched, and a spark of electricity shot through Kailani's body. Jen leaned in, her breath warm on Kailani's skin, and before Kailani could think, Jen kissed her, soft but firm, like a wave breaking over the shore. Kailani's heart raced as she kissed her back, their connection instant, like they were two pieces of the same puzzle finally fitting together. When they pulled apart, Jen's eyes sparkled with mischief. "If you surf like you kiss, we're going to be just fine," Kailani said, breathless. The morning of the competition, Kailani stood on the shore, watching the other surfers paddle out into the ocean. Her ankle was still swollen, and the chances of her competing were slim, but Jen had promised to ride her board in the competition. Kailani's heart pounded with nerves, but there was a flicker of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Then, through the crowd, she saw Jen, riding her Alaya surfboard with grace and power. She cut through the waves effortlessly, the wooden board carving deep into the water, just as Kailani had taught her. She was incredible. From the shore, Kailani raised her hands in triumph, watching as Jen caught the biggest wave of the day, soaring above the competition, her board and Kailani's hopes riding high. When Jen finally came back to shore, grinning from ear to ear, Kailani ran to meet her, pulling her into a fierce hug. "You did it!" Kailani beamed, her heart overflowing with pride. Jen pulled her closer, their foreheads touching. "We did it, Kai. Together." And in that moment, Kailani knew her auntie's fortune had come true. Her new future had landed, not in the form of success or fame, but in the arms of someone who understood her, someone who believed in her, and someone who was ready to ride the waves of life right alongside her.